You have $10 million in your bank account, but you don't want it tied to you anymore. At an upscale office, you meet a guy in a suit who asks you to put your signature on 3 pieces of paper. Shortly after, he clicks on his computer and, within seconds, the $10 million no longer appears tied to your name. You don't own it anymore, he says, but you still get to use it. The best part? It's all legal. Welcome to the mysterious but very real world of offshore wealth. No masks, just paperwork. 3 signatures, and the money disappears in plain sight. So, how does someone make millions vanish without really losing them? Well, it all starts with splitting ownership, control, and benefit. For most of us, if you own something, you control it and how it benefits you. For example, if you buy a car, your name is on the title, you drive it, and you enjoy it. However, in offshore finance, those 3 roles, ownership, control, and benefit, are carefully segregated. A billionaire might technically not possess the yacht they sail on because a trust holds it. They might not control it as well since it's under the management of a shell company. And even more bizarre, they might not benefit from it because the paperwork say that it's for his kids or anyone down the family tree. This split is the trick of offshore finance. Though no one has all the pieces on paper, a single individual can still live as if it's theirs in the real world. Now that you understand the split, let's see where it begins in practice. Trusts. Trusts are often the first stop in the offshore finance chain. Just so we are on the same page, a trust is basically a legal container where you put assets, say a private jet, and then sign a trustee to manage those assets for a beneficiary. But here's the catch. The person setting up the trust, called the settlor, technically no longer owns the assets once they are inside the container. In other words, if you look them up in the public registry, their name probably won't appear next to the wealth. The 2016 Panama Papers revealed that trusts were widely used by celebrities, politicians, and business leaders to distance themselves from their fortunes. But a trust alone doesn't keep you invisible. To truly blur the trail, you need another layer of disguise. Shell companies. After trusts, you'll often find a shell company. Now, this one is exactly that, an empty shell. It doesn't manufacture any products, employ workers, or even have an office. It exclusively exists on paper, often in a jurisdiction like the British Virgin Islands or the Cayman Islands. So, why would you want to use one? Well, the shell can actually be an official owner of assets. Remember the yacht from before? The billionaire does not own it, and neither does the trust. Both of these are owned by the shell company, adding yet another layer of separation. According to a 2020 report from the Tax Justice Network, an estimated $21 to $32 trillion in private financial wealth is held offshore, much of it through shells. The infamous Panama Papers revealed that Iceland's Prime Minister, Sigmundur Davíð Gunnlaugsson, didn't declare a shell, Wintris Inc., that owned nearly $4 million in bonds tied to Iceland's collapsed banks. Unfortunately, even a company on paper can be traced. That's why the ultra-rich have one final trick: nominee directors. Now, here's where things get even more interesting. If you simply stop at trusts and shells, the paperwork can be traced back to you. But don't worry, for the nominee director is here to save the day. A nominee director is someone who agrees, often for a small fee, to have their name appear as the company director. However, they don't make the decisions. They simply sign papers and lend their name. Imagine it like this: you're throwing a party, but you don't want your neighbors to know you're responsible. So you hire a boy or girl to send out the invitations, greet guests, and pose in the photos. To the outside world, they're the host, but you're the one living it up. Investigations have revealed that nominee directors are used globally to hide true ownership. In fact, a single nominee, Sarah Peter Mears, from the UK was once listed as director of 1,251 different companies. A red flag that they weren't really in charge of any of them. So, where do all these layers connect? Trusts, shells, and nominees operate in secrecy jurisdictions. better known as tax havens. These are territories of countries that deliberately make it hard to trace money. In addition to confidentiality, they promise low to zero taxes and light regulation. The British Virgin Islands, for example, has more than 370,000 registered companies despite having a population of only about 30,000 people. That's more than 10 companies per person. Or take Switzerland, long famous for its secretive banking system. Even though global pressure has forced Swiss banks to be more transparent, they still hold nearly $2.4 trillion in offshore wealth. Not everything offshore is shady, though. Some structures sound suspicious but actually serve a purpose. SPVs versus shells. You might also hear the term SPV. In full, those letters stand for Special Purpose Vehicle. While shells are often just for hiding assets, SPVs have a legitimate business use. Companies set them up to handle risky projects, separate liabilities, or raise funds. For example, a construction firm might create an SPV to manage one giant project so that if it fails, the losses don't sink the entire company. But the lines blur. SPVs can also be abused to move money quietly, avoid taxes, or disguise real ownership. The 2008 financial crisis, for instance, exposed how banks used SPVs to shuffle risky assets off their balance sheets, hiding the true extent of their exposure. Why legal doesn't mean visible? Here's the kicker. Most of this is legal. Setting up a trust, opening a shell company, or hiring a nominee director isn't against the law. In fact, there are entire industries of lawyers, accountants, and corporate service providers who make their living helping wealthy clients set these up. But legal doesn't mean visible. Just because it follows the rules doesn't mean the public, the tax authorities, or even investigators can easily see through it. That's why so many scandals erupt when leaks happen. Think the Panama Papers 2016, the Paradise Papers 2017, and the Pandora Papers 2021. These leaks exposed how world leaders, celebrities, and corporations were hiding billions in plain sight. One shocking revelation from the Pandora Papers showed how King Abdullah II of Jordan secretly amassed a more than $106 million real estate empire in Malibu, Washington, and London through offshore companies. Perfectly legal, but politically explosive. What still works after the leaks? Haven't these leaks and new global rules made it harder to hide money, you might ask? Well, yes, but not impossible. The OECD's Common Reporting Standard, CRS, adopted in 2017, forces countries to share banking information automatically. More than 100 jurisdictions now participate. The US, however, is a notable exception. It never signed on. This has ironically turned parts of America, like Delaware and South Dakota, into new tax havens. South Dakota, for example, has quietly become home to trusts in 2024. The value of assets held in South Dakota trusts rose by $135 billion, from $680 billion to $815 billion. So, while some doors closed after Panama and Paradise, others opened in the US shelf. Would you move your money offshore? Let me know your pick in the comments. And if you enjoy videos like this, subscribe to Global Money Mindset and turn on your notifications for more nuggets.